Welcome to the Grower Pesticide Safety course. This is Chapter 18, Drift of Pesticides. Chapter 18 starts on page 179 of the manual. There are 22 slides in this presentation and will take us about 20 minutes to review. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define drift, describe how nozzles and spray droplets affect drift, list ways to manage drift, considering equipment, environmental conditions, and the pesticide. Drift is the movement of pesticides through the air away from the target area. There are two types of drift, spray drift and vapor drift. Our goal is to get the pesticide from the application equipment to the intended target and avoid harmful effects to adjacent crops, nearby plant and animal life, and areas of human activity. Spray drift is the movement of spray droplets away from the target area during the application. Small droplets drift more easily than large droplets. Granules and powders drift as well. For example, pesticide particles drift when planting treated seed. Sometimes the pesticide granules and the treated seed will come off as the planter goes through the field. So we need to prevent spray or particle drift. Vapor drift is the invisible movement of pesticide vapors from the target area. So you really won't see vapor drift happening, but vapors will be released from some pesticides more than others. And some pesticides change into the vapor state after a period of time in the soil, air, or on the plant. Pesticide vapors may travel several kilometers. Factors affecting spray drift. We're going to look at equipment, nozzles, travel speed, pressure, nozzle to target distance, and specialized equipment. Then we'll talk about the environment, wind speed, wind direction, temperature and relative humidity, sensitive areas to watch for, and we'll also think about the pesticide. There are more volatile formulations. There are adjuvants we could add to a product so it's less volatile or to reduce spray drift. And we'll go over reading the warnings on the pesticide label. So first, the nozzles. The nozzles are the most important way to manage drift. Managing drift starts with that initial size of the spray droplet when it comes out of the application equipment. And small droplets drift further than large droplets. The initial droplet size is determined by the type of nozzle and, of course, the operating pressure it must run at. So we need larger droplets, so we need to use nozzles that will produce those larger droplets. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the spray nozzle classification. On the right-hand side, you'll see the colors and the categories of droplets from nozzles. So we go from very fine, fine, medium, coarse, very coarse, extremely coarse. And now we even have ultra coarse nozzles. And they are color coded to what's in the catalog. So you can look aside and see a depiction of the catalog there. If we're looking for coarse nozzles, coarse droplets from a particular nozzle, so we look over and we can see all the blue with the letter C in them. And we'd be able to go in and buy a nozzle that gives us a coarse droplet. Pesticide labels will state the droplet size that must be used. So look on the pesticide label. Most labels will say medium to coarse. Now we have some labels saying very coarse, extremely coarse, and ultra coarse nozzles. Nozzle description. What do the letters and numbers mean? Example, here's an AI 11004 VS. So the AI means air induction. The air mixes with the spray liquid and it's going to produce that larger droplet for us. 110 is the spray angle of 110 degrees, the angle that it's coming out of the nozzle. All the droplets make an angle of 130 degrees. 04, 0.4 US gallons per minute. That refers to that nozzle rate, the flow rate of the nozzle. And VS is the material that it happens to be made of. This is a VisiFlow stainless steel, hence the VS as the short form for the material of the nozzle. So that's what the letters and numbers mean. The color of the nozzle represents the nozzle rate. For example, the red nozzles have a nozzle rate of 0.4 US gallons per minute. So this is a different color code than the one for the droplet size that relates to the catalog colors. This is the actual color of the nozzle, and that relates to the US gallons per minute flow rate. When choosing nozzles, don't confuse the nozzle rate color code with the droplet size color code. All right, operate nozzles at pressures recommended to give you the spray pattern and the angle you need. Spray droplets change size with pressure. Higher pressures usually create the smaller droplets and use the pressure recommended for the nozzle. There may be specialty nozzles, and to get the exact size of the droplet that you need to follow the recommendation of the pressure for those particular nozzles. Spray angle, 80 degrees or 110 degrees. Nozzles with that 110 degree spray angle allow the boom to be closer to the target than the 80 angle nozzles. So you're able to reduce drift. You're just getting the nozzle a little bit closer to the target. Travel speed and nozzle to target distance. Two other things regarding your equipment that can help you manage drift. With travel speed, a faster travel speed could increase drift because the faster speed creates the air currents and could break the droplets up into smaller droplets and distort the pattern before it gets to the target. And talk about target, position the boom at the height recommended for the nozzles. The height usually recommended for 110 degree nozzles is 50 centimeters, 20 inches above the target. For air blast spraying, position to match the profile of the target and redirect the spray for different crops of different heights. Specialized equipment, the last thing under equipment we'll chat about. There is some specialized equipment you can do which can eliminate and reduce your drift. So wick weeders can be used across the field. You're wiping the pesticide onto the higher weeds. Deflectors over the boom, perforated screens, and nozzle hoods. They're all available, helping to get reduce the drift. I'm going to also mention planting treated seed. Soil particles become contaminated with pesticides when planting treated seed, especially the vacuum planters. So adjust your planter by mounting the air intakes for the vacuum meters up high, out of the way, so the field dust doesn't enter the planter system, where this field dust will pick up the pesticide residues. So be concerned as well when you're planting treated seed, and that there's actually drift happening, pesticide drift happening at that time as well. Wind speed. We're talking about some of the weather conditions now, and apply when wind speeds are light to moderate. And we're usually talking between 2 to 10 kilometers per hour, and if you're still thinking miles per hour, 2 to 6 miles per hour. Higher wind speeds, of course, increase the chance of drift. You need some wind when spraying. There's a danger of drift with no wind, so you want some circulation. When there is no wind, spray droplets can hang like a cloud or a fog and stay suspended. So we don't want that to happen. We want the droplets to get down to the target, to the plant. So if wind develops later, The spray cloud may blow off targets, so we need a little wind to prevent this cloud that may happen. Best practice, to delay spraying until there is some wind movement happening. Now, best to measure your wind speed. Measure the wind speed at the boom height with the wind meter. Write it down to keep a record. Do this for each application, not first thing in the morning, not at lunchtime, not at 5 o'clock, but each time, and maybe every hour in the field would even be good. Look for signs of wind speed. So you can have a flag with you, a flag in the field, and look for signs of wind speed. Flags waving slightly, leaves are rustling. Okay, green light, good for spraying. If we're at the stage where the flag is straight out and there's small trees swaying, this is not the best wind speed, so red light and don't spray. Wind direction. Spray when winds blow away from sensitive crops and public areas. So in this case, on a diagram here, we have wind coming off the lake, off the creek, and it's blowing this way away, so then you know your any drift that would happen would be drift blowing away from the sensitive area. Use a compass to determine the wind direction and write it down. Feel the wind in your face and point the compass into the wind to take the reading. And that's how you would do a reading for direction. Keep monitoring the wind direction. Stop when the direction shifts towards sensitive areas. You want to make sure you're always spraying where the wind is coming off of those sensitive areas. Temperature and relative humidity. Drift can increase on a hot, dry day. When temperature is high, relative humidity is low, you have a very hot, dry day. On hot, dry days, spray droplets will evaporate quickly and they become smaller. So that's the danger if it's a really hot, drying day. Spray when the relative humidity is above 70%. Surface inversions can cause drift and several hours after application, so we have to be very careful with surface inversions. Cool, dense air near the ground is trapped under a layer of warm, lighter air. So spray droplets may float like a fog over the treated area. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So delay spraying in the morning until temperature has risen by 2 or 3 degrees and winds start to move the air. So again, we need some air movement happening. If it's really dead calm, this is not the time to spray. You're probably in a temperature or surface inversion. And this is when there's cool air and it is trapped by that warmer air on top. Sensitive areas. Buffer zones are areas that are left untreated to protect sensitive areas. Read the label for buffer zones you need to use. There will be a buffer zone chart under directions for use. So terrestrial habitats. Terrestrial means land habitats. So woodlots, lots, pastures, shelter belts. Freshwater habitats, lakes, rivers, ponds, marshes. There could be 2 different buffer zone requirements, one for the land terrestrial habitats and one for the freshwater habitats. So check that on a pesticide label and then make sure that you are leaving that buffer zone when you're spraying. Drift awareness. Spray drift awareness zones on a map of your farm. Quickly identify sensitive areas within an area of 1 kilometer of the area you plan to spray. So do this ahead of time and think through how your farm is situated next to other things. And in this case, we can see there's a residential area, there's a golf course, there's a sensitive crop, open water, and species at risk. All things that you need to be thinking about that's surrounding you. And note, droplets could move beyond even this 1 kilometer zone. But if you even examine your area within 1 kilometer, and think about ways you can manage the drift and prevent drift from these sensitive areas. Know the characteristics of the pesticide. This is the last thing we're going to talk about, and we've just got 2 more slides left. Know the characteristics of the pesticide. Volatile formulations. Choose formulations with low volatility to prevent drift. And if you're using a volatile formulation, do everything you can to reduce the drift. Read the label, follow the label directions. Dicamba is a herbicide that is known to drift. Dicamba product formulations have been improved over the years to help reduce drift, but do follow that label. Adjuvants. An adjuvant could affect droplet size and reduce drift. Use an adjuvant when the label directions state to use an adjuvant. And label statements about environmental hazards. Those will be under the precaution section on the label. And buffer zones will be under directions of use, and you will find those there. Droplet size warnings, boom height, positioning of that boom can be a statement on the label, wind speed, and temperature. So look for all those environmental factors and stay within what the label recommends for that pesticide. If you do have a pesticide drift incident on one of your sensitive crops, to report a pesticide drift incident, phone the district office of the Ontario Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. Outside of the hours of 8:30 to 5 p.m., you can call the Spills Action Center. But best if you want to search online for the phone number of the MOECC district office for your area. Just put that those words in your search, and you will find the district office that will respond to your area, and you can report your drift. And that's it. We have to be really careful about spraying pesticides. We want to get our pesticides where they need to be. So a lot to think about with the conditions of the equipment and the conditions of the weather, and also the pesticide we're using.